Hello, this is Bruno Pelletier-Bacquaert. So today's Q&A is going to be really a mix of a lot of different questions. I'm getting all those questions regarding practicing. Things like, what should I practice? Or how could I get better? Or even things like, is there one thing I should practice every day that you would recommend? Etc., etc. So everybody has a different answer to that. You know, I'm sure there's a lot of videos on YouTube and anywhere else where people try to answer those particular questions specifically. And I'm not going to do that. The question actually, which I find the hardest to answer, is how much time should I spend on this item, or how long should I practice every day? Because, you know, some people have a very regimented way of working. They need to be told that they should spend, say, 10 minutes on scales and 20 minutes on arpeggios, and then 5 minutes on this tune, and then 15 minutes on chords, and etc., etc. This never works. Well, I shouldn't say that. Maybe it does work for some people. Some people do like to break down their practice time because they probably already know how long they have to practice. Some people say, okay, I know I have an hour and a half every night to practice. If I divide it up in 10 minutes for this, 10 minutes for that, 20 minutes for this, 5 minutes for, you know, this next item, then they know that they will touch on everything and they will feel satisfied. So if it works for you, by all means, don't listen to what I'm telling you. I can say that I did try that. I did try to come up actually with various lists, either with or without timing, for myself, you know, for my own practice. And then it never worked. I mean, as far as the timing goes, for instance, say I told myself, all right, I'm going to spend 10 minutes on major scales. So first of all, it means I'm either looking at the clock all the time or setting up a timer. And then whenever the timer rings, it's never the right time. Either it's like, oh, I'm not done, I should do this, or I'm really in the mood, I could, you know, spend another 10 minutes maybe. Or the 10 minutes just last an eternity. I'm like, God, when is this thing going to ring? Because I'm done with this. I don't need to practice this one item any longer, right? So the timing aspect never really worked for me. So right off the bat, I can leave that out. The other thing about the lists I could mention is I'm sort of embarrassed to even tell you that I spent so much time in the past trying to come up with the ideal list. I would say things like, oh, every day I need to come up with this perfect routine. So every day I need to do those scales, I need to do those arpeggios, I need to do those chords, and even each item, like chords. I mean, how do you practice chords? I mean, there's a million ways to practice chords. Are we talking diatonic chords? Are we talking about chord sequences, you know, like a cadence, like a 2-5-1, or a turnaround? What kind of chords are we talking about? You know, the drop 2s, drop 3s, or modal voicings, etc., etc. There's like, every item could take hours every day, right? And the ideal list, I never was able to write it down. And what I was trying to tell you, that I was almost embarrassed to reveal, is that I could have spent all this time working on certain items instead of trying to come up with the ideal list, which I never wrote. So I gave that up many years ago, the whole concept of the list. And so what does it boil down to? First of all, everybody has a different story. So the one thing you should probably ask yourself is, why do I need to practice? what am I trying to achieve? You know, because there again, everybody has a different story. Are you in a band? So is there a certain repertoire that you need to practice? You know, are there all those new tunes that you need to learn? Are you playing the melodies on those tunes, or are you just going to comp chords on those tunes? Are you practicing because you're trying to get into a music program? Like you might have to audition maybe next fall, and then you know there's all those things that you're supposed to be able to accomplish. Like they'll ask you to play certain scales, they'll ask you to comp on tunes, they'll ask you to improvise on certain tunes, etc. So you might have certain things that you already know that you need to work on. So that could be helpful. Maybe you are taking lessons. You have a private instructor who has you work on specific things. So you also know what you need to practice, and you need to include those items in your daily practice. But the general question, I think, is really about getting better. You know, we all need to get better. We all want to get so much better that whatever level we happen to be at, and this is myself included, no matter what level we are at, we always aim at higher, you know. And the thing to understand, I actually always have to remind people of that, is it's all about the journey. You know, it's not about one certain goal, like, wow, when I get to that point, everything will be wonderful. I'll be this amazing jazz musician, and I'll be able to enjoy life, and every tune I play will just be great, and I'll know all the tunes anyway by then, and etc., etc. Well, that's never going to happen, right? So it's all about the journey. There's not one particular destination. You know, there are little goals along the way, yes, but there's not this one destination, because you're never going to get there. There isn't, you know, nobody has figured out what the final destination was when it comes to being a jazz musician. So forget about that, right? So in order to get better, we need to, you know, be able to assess where we are right now. It could be helpful to have a private instructor who is going to help you assess that, or maybe open up your eyes, just let you know, well, you know, you think you need this, but how about that? You know, have you worked on those things? Because, you know, you're thinking of maybe certain approaches to improvisation, or maybe you're trying to learn certain tunes or certain chord progressions, but you're maybe not ready for that. Maybe you need to work on simpler chord progressions. Maybe you need to work on your time. Maybe you need to work on your chords. You know, that a recurrent scenario is that people are way too focused on improvisation, single note improvisation, and they can't play 3 chords in time, right? So, you know, you have to maybe have someone from the outside helping you, you know, realize those things. So, also we all have different different amounts of time. You know, some people have the entire day to practice. I wish I had. Maybe I did at one point, and little did I know that that would just not last very long. So some people don't even have time to practice every day. Some people have family, they have a full-time job, social obligations, other hobbies. You know, hey, maybe guitar is not the most important thing in your life after all, right? So we all come with a different life story. And we also need to be aware of that. You know, the amount of time that one person needs to work on that's just not going to be compatible with someone else, etc., etc. So a lot of those things we need to figure out on our own. But I think the most important thing, and this is something I figured out a long time ago, and it really made all the difference in the world for me, for my own practice, my own approach to playing the guitar and everything. It's about balancing out between the technical items and the musical items. So let me explain that. Instead of saying, I need to work, let's say you figured out that you need to work on certain scales, you know, let's say major scales, melodic minor scales. Let's just even put those two. And then there are certain things about chords that you need to work on. So you have a list of items specifically in relation to working on chords. And then let's say there's arpeggios, and you know, you work on, let's say you just want to work on your diatonic arpeggios in the whatever key that you're working on this week. Okay, so that's already a tall order. That's already a lot of items in what I'm calling the technical side. And then on the musical side, you have the songs that you're working on. You know, your little repertoire, either repertoire that you're trying to maintain, like, you know, keep playing the tunes that you already know so that you don't forget them, but also include some new tunes, you know, because you're not going to play the same 12 tunes for your entire life. You need to let your repertoire expand, you know, so every week, every few days, whatever, everybody's different there again, try to include a new tune and add it to your already existing repertoire. So going back to the balance I'm talking about, what I do, and this is no matter how much time I have, whether I have the whole afternoon to practice or whether I have only, say, 10 minutes to practice at one time in the day. Well, I'm going to make sure that if I say, let's say I'm practicing some diatonic arpeggios, well, before working on chords or scales or whatever, you know, aspect of the technical items, I'm going to play a tune. And after I'm done playing the tune, then I'll go back to another technical thing. Maybe I'll work on the chords then, you know, of you know, the diatonic chords that I wanted to work on. And then I'll work on another tune, etc. So, and when I say working on a tune, that could mean a lot of different things. It could be just practice comping on a song. I'll turn on the metronome, usually on 2 and 4, as you know I like to do, and I'll just comp for 20 minutes on, or 10 minutes or 5 minutes, whatever, but I'll just comp on this one tune, non-stop. Just play the chords. And then I'm saying, okay, well, I'm done with this tune. So instead of playing another tune, I'll just go back to something technical, and then I'll work on my arpeggios, or I'll work on my chords. And when I'm done with that item, I'll play another tune. Maybe I will play the melody of a song over and over. Or maybe I will improvise on the chords of this, you know, this chord progression of this tune that I like. And I find that it's really helped me in multiple ways. First of all, something that you might have noticed if you work too hard on your technique. Say you do your scales over and over and over, and you keep pushing the metronome, and you get faster and faster, and then you start experiencing some kind of fatigue. You know, your hands will get tired, and if you do too much of that, by the time you get to your tunes, you're sort of burnt out. You know, your fingers, ironically, you know, you think you're all warmed up and everything, but there's a threshold. You know, yes, you will get warmed up, and then if you keep pushing, then you'll be tired. And then if you wait until you're tired, until you start working on your tunes, that's not going to be satisfactory, right? So sometimes it's interesting to notice how your fingers might get a little tired, but you start playing a song, and then everything starts becoming more fluid. And because it's relaxing, I mean, playing a song is actually, or should be, relaxing. I mean, the way we improvise, you know, assuming that we don't use too much tension or you know, effort while we play, it's sort of relaxing. Then you can go back to playing something technical, like maybe work on your arpeggios, right? And then go back to, you know, playing something again, improvising on a song. And what's interesting is, no matter how much time there is for the practice session, I feel like I accomplished a little bit of everything. you know, both technical and musical, and that way there's a lot of satisfaction going on, because I used to get frustrated if I worked too much on the technical aspects, and then by the time say, oh, I need to go, or say I need to leave the house at a certain time, or I'm too tired and burnt out, so I don't have enough energy to really invest myself in playing some music, let alone, and the worst thing is, like, you know, practicing too much before the gig, and then you get to the gig and your fingers can't really handle the 3-4 hours that you need to spend at the gig. So, you know, you got to be cautious with those things. So again, it's all about the balance. So try to think about it, you know, instead of just doing all the technical things and leave out the musical aspects. Try to balance it out. On the other hand, some people only practice tunes and never practice technique. It's probably better, you know, in a way, because, you know, this is all about the music. It's not about really just playing the instrument. But ideally, you still want to balance it out, because if you only play tunes and never, you know, spend time with technical aspects, like whether it's about picking or chord vocabulary, or you know, certain lines, arpeggios, etc., you're going to be playing the same stuff all the time. So you need to, you know, pick a little bit from here, pick a little bit from there, and make sure it's all balanced out. So I hope that answers some of the questions you might have on practicing and so on. And let me know if it's something you might already do, or something that just will never work for you for whatever reason. And I'd be happy to challenge you on that as well. Okay, take care. Bye.